not every choice will be the same. All choices have consequences. It could be from saving a life to failing to save a life. Every day we make choices, and you will have to decide the fate of a hero or villain today, by the name of Peter Parker. After encountering Venom and bonding with the symbiote, Peter Parker had to make a series of decisions that would lead to the almost end of the world. In one reality, Parker defeated the darkness and brought peace to his world.
It took a few weeks, especially with the geniuses at S.H.I.E.L.D. blowing up all the bridges and tunnels.
But in another sinister timeline, Parker had become the very thing he swore to destroy. It's your turn to change the course of history, but don't forget these words. Meddling with time and events will only lead to more destruction. Choice A. Symbiote Vulture destroys the Tinkerer's device and defeats Spider-Man. The Black Cat was severely injured in the process between him and her, and this forced Peter to leave the Black Cat in Mary Jane's care and go to the headquarters to install the Tinkerer's device. But unfortunately, he was attacked by Symbiote Vulture, who was planning on destroying the device and stopping Spider-Man from stopping the symbiote invasion. With the device gone, and with no more time, the symbiote overruns Manhattan and infects every living thing and begins to spread to the rest of New York while Peter struggles to stop it. He finally gave up saving everyone and decided to save only his loved ones. He found Mary Jane and Aunt May, and he removed their symbiote infection and takes them away from New York City to seek safety in Canada, while the government decided that New York was beyond saving and decided to nuke the whole state, putting an end to the symbiote invasion, but also killing any and everyone who cannot regenerate. After a few days, Wolverine, being able to regenerate, came back and found that Spider-Man had abandoned them, which led to the whole state of New York being wiped out, with everything and everyone in it. He was angry that Spider-Man didn't do better to save the city, and blamed him for the destruction of New York and the cause to the symbiote infection. So he decided to find Spider-Man and destroy him rather than letting him go free. Wolverine traced Spider-Man down to Canada and planned to attack him when he found him, but what he had met was a guilt-ridden Peter Parker, who lived with his aunt and whom Mary Jane had left because he had to be blamed for the destruction even though he had saved her life. He was still infected with the symbiote, and as the guilt ate away from him, the symbiote consumed him. The Peter Parker that Wolverine had found was no longer Peter Parker. It was obvious that he had suffered a lot from the decision that he made, and with that, Wolverine decided to put an end to his misery. Wolverine engaged the raving Peter Parker in an altercation and finally ending him, but not without consequences, as in the process, Wolverine had gotten infected with the symbiote again, turning into a monster that decided to spread the symbiote to the citizens of Canada, beginning the invasion all over again. Choice B. Mary Jane infects herself with the symbiote. After the fight with the Black Cat, she was left severely injured, and because of that, Peter had to decide to either save her by infecting her with the symbiote, proving he cared about her, and risking Mary Jane's wrath, or he would leave her in Mary Jane's care and hoped that she survived. He decided that he was going to save her, so he infected her with the symbiote, and this healed her, but not without annoying Mary Jane. She then decided to infect herself with the symbiote after Peter had left and used it to kill the Black Cat, absorbing her infection. This turned Mary Jane into a monster that went on a rampage. Meanwhile, Peter had gone to S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters to install the Tinkerer's device, and other to finally put a stop to the symbiote invasion. As he was trying to activate the device, he was attacked by a symbiote Vulture, who was trying to stop him from activating activating the device. While he fought the symbiote Vulture, as he was about to defeat him, another symbiote infected person attacked him too. This new person quickly defeated the symbiote Vulture and absorbed him. He found out that it was none other than Mary Jane, and she had been twisted beyond saving by the symbiote. She was angry and she was a monster. He could not fight her. He tried his best to hold her back, but knew that the only way he was going to save the city was as if he defeated her. Then he took the fight seriously against his wishes and kills the infected Mary Jane and was able to activate the device after. The device destroyed all the symbiotes in Manhattan, including his suit, putting an end once and for all to the symbiote invasion and saving the city, all at the price of losing every person he cared about, including Mary Jane and Felicia Hardy. A memorial was held for everyone that lost their lives during the symbiote invasion, and Peter blamed himself because he believed that if he had taken care of Venom a long time ago, there never would have been a symbiote invasion. The same Venom that was still at large, he decided to find him and found Eddie Brock instead, with all of the symbiote destroyed. Eddie Brock was now just Eddie. In his rage and his quest for revenge, Peter killed Eddie Brock, becoming a fugitive, and decided to quit being a hero because he was a failure at it. Choice C. Peter absorbs all of the symbiote and becomes a monster himself. After the fight with Black Cat, she was severely injured and Peter had been forced to save her life by infecting her again with the symbiote in order to heal her. Even though this annoyed Mary Jane, he didn't care. He had bigger issues that were bigger than the petty jealousy of a woman. He immediately left for S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters, where the device that the Tinkerer had was being installed and waiting for him to activate it. As soon as he arrived there, he was attacked by the symbiote Vulture, who was trying to stop him from activating the device and saving Manhattan. Vulture was able to destroy the device. This was making saving the city very difficult. He thought of how his family and loved ones that were in the city, and he thought of all the people of Manhattan that were depending on him to save them. There was only one thing to do. He could control the symbiote, and he could also absorb them. He decided that he was going to take all of the symbiotes and free the people of Manhattan. He started from the Vulture himself. He had caught the Vulture and taken away the symbiote from him, disinfecting him. It worked. So, Peter proceeded on doing that one by one, and he took away the symbiote himself, but he found out that the more of the infection he took, the more he lost himself. That was a small sacrifice to make to save the people, except he was making a big mistake. At some point, he had completely lost himself, and while he still thought he was saving the people by absorbing the symbiote infection, he had turned into a monster and was eating everyone who had been in the symbiote control. He was no longer absorbing the symbiote, but also the host. He started attacking everyone and killed the host and the infection. He grew larger and uncontrollable. S.H.I.E.L.D. decided to bring a new solution. They had already quarantined Manhattan that had been overrun by the infection, and now Peter Parker was growing into an unstoppable monster with it. As he took all of the symbiotic infection and their hosts, they had gotten word to the government, telling them the situation was now irredeemable, and the people that had been initially cleared of the infection were taken out of Manhattan, and so the people who were never infected in the first place. As soon as the evacuation was down, the government dropped a nuke on Manhattan and ended the invasion for good, but turning Manhattan into a nuclear wasteland and also killing Peter Parker in the process. Peter was still hailed as a hero despite his mistakes, even though some people who had lost loved ones in his rampage would disagree. But a memorial was held for the victims of the incident, and while Spider-Man got a statue amidst all the names written on the marble wall, everyone was remembered. Mary Jane walked into the memorial after everyone had left and stopped a row of orphan kids from egging Spider-Man's statue out of despite. Choice D. Peter rules over the symbiotes. After the fight with Black Cat, she was severely injured. Peter felt that he had betrayed everybody and he was angry. Although Mary Jane didn't like Black Cat, she wanted Peter to save her, but instead, Peter held her neck and broke it, killing her. To Mary Jane's horror, Peter said she deserved it and said that all the villains deserved to die. He then left her and went to the S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters, where S.H.I.E.L.D. had installed the device that the Tinkerer had made to destroy the symbiote invasion once and for all. As soon as he got there, he contemplated activating the device, but then Symbiote Vulture attacked him. Spider-Man was swift and ruthless. He didn't hold back. He was not interested in negotiating with these villains anymore, and they didn't deserve justice. With the full might of his strength, Peter Parker utterly decimated the Vulture and brought him to his knees. Then, he absorbed the symbiote from him, leaving him broken. The bloodied Vulture begged Peter to end it quickly, but Peter told him he deserved a painful death rather than the end of the symbiote invasion. He realized that humans didn't need controlled because he had the He destroyed the device and decided to rule over. He could control them. From that day on, Peter increased the infection of the symbiote and spread it further than Manhattan in a bid to control the world using the symbiote. S.H.I.E.L.D. then said word to the Pentagon for the situation that was unfolding with this. The Pentagon gave authorization for the United States military to nuke New York State. With this, a nuclear weapon was sent to destroy the whole state, wiping out every symbiote infection, or so they thought. They had not realized that Peter had infected Aunt May, Black Cat, and Mary Jane, and by controlling them, they had left New York entirely, giving them the illusion that the infection was stopped in New York. But really, he had just moved to a new state to begin the invasion of the world. And that is it for this video. It was fun writing these scenarios and outcomes for What If Spider-Man Web of Shadows Interactive What If. If you guys noticed, this fan fiction was based on the PlayStation 3 storyline of the game Web of Shadows, which inspired this video. It highlighted how the story would have gone in 4 different alternate timelines if Spider-Man had left the Black Cat in the hands of a vengeful Mary Jane, and if the Vulture had succeeded in destroying the Tinkerer's device, if Peter had turned into a symbiote monster, and if Spider-Man had decided to rule over the symbiotes. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think of this interactive Marvel's What If, and there will be a couple more videos coming soon. So that being said, what do you guys think the next video should be? I have another Web of Shadows video coming soon, and that is, could Batman survive Spider-Man Web of Shadows? So make sure you tune into that. But that being said, subscribe, like, share, and turn your notifications on so you and your friends are all up to date with the latest content. But anyways, as always guys, thanks for tuning in and have a fantastic day.